All right, new racing season. Hey guys, welcome to the video. My name is Ryan Styles Harris, and in this video today, we are going to the JCONCEPTS round number 1 of the Super Cup series. It happened over at the wonderful Beachline Raceway in Cocoa Beach, Florida. I'm gonna give you guys a quick little edit of just some racing action that happened over the weekend with some cool music, and then we're going to jump into what I was doing with my cars and the main events, and I'll try and talk you through some setup stuff and the action that was going on there. Without further ado, let's just jump right into it.
Now I'm the king of the swingers, oh, the jungle VIP. I've reached the top and had to stop, and that's what's bothering me. I wanna be a man cub, and stroll right into town, and be just like the other men. I'm tired of walking around. Oh, you say it's true, and they like me. Can't lie to me, human too. Oh, I wanna be like you. I wanna walk like you, talk like you too. You say it's true, and they like me. Can't lie to me, human too. Oh, I wanna be like you. I wanna walk like you, talk like you too. You say it's true, and they like me. Can't lie to me, human too. I wanna. Now don't try to kid me, man cub. I made a deal with you. What I desire is man's red fire to make my dream come true. Now give me the secret, man cub. Come on, clue me what to do. Give me the power of man's red flower so I can be like you. Oh. You say it's true, and they like me. Can't lie to me, human too. Oh, I wanna be like you. I wanna walk like you, talk like you too. You say it's true, and they like me. Can't lie to me, human too. Oh, I wanna be like you. I wanna walk like you, talk like you too. You say it's true, and they like me. Can't lie to me, human too. Can't lie to me, human too. Can't lie to me, human too.
So I hope you guys like that. Sorry it was a little bit shorter. I didn't get as much B-roll at this event because I was spending quite a bit of time working on my cars. I think that I was making setup changes just about every time I went out onto the track, which you kind of don't want to be doing by the time you get into the second round of qualifying and the main event. Kind of want to get all that stuff sorted out on practice day and in the morning, but hey, gotta do what you gotta do to try and get on the podium, right? This year, I'm going to be running the 17.5 two-wheel drive buggy expert stock class. Last year I was running the independent class, which meant there was no sponsorships. This year, this class is going to allow sponsorships, and the competition is a little bit stiffer, or it's a little bit better because these guys are a lot faster. So it's going to challenge me personally, and I'm just hoping I can learn a lot and get a fairly decent finish in my first season running in this class. I'm also going to be running the 13.5 four-wheel drive class like I did in the fall session, and just hoping for another good strong finish there as well. At this particular race, we had, I think it was 4 or 5 heats of the 13.5 four-wheelers. I've never seen that at a Super Cup with that many people. So it was fantastic. I hope that we get to see that kind of turnout at the rest of the races in 2018. So let's start with the two-wheel drive buggy. Made lots and lots and lots of changes. Starting with the base setup that I came out with was the one that I used the last time I was there, but this time around the track was a lot more kind of open and it just was a lot faster, not as many big jumps, so my setup, it just wasn't working the same. So what did I end up doing? The suspension was too stiff, the oil was too heavy, and the gearing was too low. So I ended up changing all of those things immediately. I started off with a orange front spring and a yellow rear spring, which was way too soft, or which was way too stiff, and a front sway bar. The car was pushing everywhere, I had no rear bite, so I ended up dropping all of that down to something that was much softer and more responsive. So I started off with a red front spring, and I dropped down to a gray rear spring. The shock oil that I started off with was 35 up front and 30 in the rear. Oh, and I added a rear sway bar, no front sway bar. Keep the rear end a little bit more planted. It just felt better that way. So right off the bat, the car was a lot better. It was a little edgy, but when I made those changes, the track was kind of cooling down and there was a little bit less grip. So it was a weird timing where it worked, but then I found myself the next day getting into qualifying, the car had too much grip. I couldn't push it as hard as I wanted to in certain areas of the track, and it would just flip too easily. So I ended up changing the suspension yet again, but it was a little strange the way that I did it, and I'll explain why. So I actually ended up going to a yellow front spring, and then I ended up going to a blue rear spring. So I went stiffer in the rear and softer in the front. The track recently went under a change, I think, of direction in a lot of places. And because the AstroTurf was a little bit older and it was very laid over, it meant that it was very difficult to go in the opposite direction and get the turf to kind of switch its the little grass piece things, I don't know. So what ended up happening was in certain areas of the track, if you weren't perfectly in the racing line and you went a little bit out, the car would just drift like crazy because it was grabbing a weird section of the turf. So that softer front spring kind of ensured that you were going to stay in the groove area a little bit better, even if you tended to overdrive the car. So I had a couple people comment and say that it looked like the front end, all the weight was being dumped to the front end of the car and it came out of the rear end a little bit too much. But my reasoning was I kind of liked that because it kept me in the groove a little bit more consistently. And this track was all about being consistent, making no mistakes, not traction rolling, and just trying to be as fast as you could be in a consistent manner. And I was very happy with it going into the main event. So I qualified 8th for the main event, and I was looking to put on the best that I could. I was hoping for a top 5 finish. So I'll go ahead and throw up the main event here, and then I'll jump back to you guys to finish up with the 13.5 four-wheel drive class. Here we go.
And let's go on tone here in less than 5. And good to the first on lead, led by the all-black hood here of Contact. Getting over for a very pleasant here. He is ready. Walking around to the race lead. After the roll there for Contact. All comes the box here to the back. Almost running him straight out. So TJ Berry to the front. Here he comes down the front straight. He's in a comfortable gap right now. It's going to go slide. Taking Ramos up into the number 2. So Ramos goes 6 on the 33-52 spot. Ramos coming in through that expert. Got a little bit of a gap here on Al White, who's just in the pass now. Up into the number 3. Holding it together with Bob there. The big seat back to what we have in the corner. It's Don Pecca up into the number 3. With Ryan Harris right there in the number 4. Your race here coming in through the SR here on the left-hand side of the track. And they running down. A lot of speed here for TJ Bradley. He comes out that front straightaway in the fast power. Across that start-finish line. TJ Bradley at a 7-second lead by now. Hold on, John Tech. Ryan Harris in the number 3 spot.
man, how about that start? That crazy little pile up in the middle there on the first lap, and I somehow miraculously got through that and found myself sitting in third, I think it was, or fourth. I can't remember. And then I ended up finishing third place. Can't beat that. The guys behind me, fun fact, their hot laps were at least 2 or 3 tenths faster than mine. So it was literally my only chance was to just be consistent and not make any mistakes. And then they, unfortunate for them, fortunate for me, they made a few, which gave me that little bit of room to maintain that third place position at the end of the race. Jumping into the four-wheel drive class. This car, I actually kept the setup pretty much the same from the last time that I was here. The car, because it's just a little bit heavier, four-wheel drive tends to be a little faster, it was able to overcome the lack of grip just a little bit, and it ended up balancing itself out pretty close to where it needed to be. I think that in the second round of qualifying, I did make 2 changes to the car. I ended up raising the inner camber link up 1 hole just to reduce a little bit of the roll, and then I ended up dropping the rear diff fluid from 10,000 to 7,000. It just helped the car rotate a little bit faster. It was just being a little bit too lazy with the fluids being at 10K up front and then 500K in the middle and 10K in the rear. Dropping it down to that 7K in the rear kind of helped me get the car to rotate how I liked it to. After a round 1 TQ, I actually felt really good. I wasn't going to mess with the car too much. I was just going to go out there and drive it to the best of my abilities. In round 2, I ended up making a pretty severe mistake, and it dropped me off of a TQ pace, and then I just had to make sure that I finished as strong as I could, because they do end up using your performance from both of the qualifying rounds to sort you out in the main event. So in the main event, I actually found myself qualified second, right behind Daniel Chavez and Patrick Rossiter in third. If you guys remember, Patrick and I were racing in the fall session. He's super fast, had a lot of fun racing with him. Good to see him here in the main as well. So I'll go ahead and put the main up here. You guys can watch it. Hope you enjoy it, and I'll be back in just a second to wrap this puppy up.
Everybody come on here. In let's say 5. The operator is out of the other team 5 for the right lead. Now right there, also in that fourth spot. You got Billy Bruce. So that's what we're talking about for the Bruce right out to the bottom. Your racers are down from the straightaway. And it's not it. Oh, that's all it is now. You're all right. There's the normal side. Well, 2 and 3 hours in the middle section of the track. Here we go, the freeway. And they saw this, coming off that line. 19.5, that's not 5. Right next also with 19.5, that's Russell, 19.9. Oh, the line in the corner there, 4 Harris, that's going to allow Russell now to move up into the number 2 spot. Chavez allowing front Michael to jump on in the front straightaway. That clean track in front of here in the early stages of this race. Russell, that's not bad. That's 19.6 or 19.9. That's Chavez. 1.3 seconds to racing out. Ryan here to the number 3. Davis to the number 4. We're running out of the hot racer in 6. Now the white is 7% from the Indian to the hot. And we're going to have in the number 10 spot. Our race leader now. Going to go to the track. Going to drop down to the number 3 and 9. Oh, and Daniel Chavez in the number 2 spot. In the X-ray. Oh, that's great performance. Look at the Masters there for our race leader. Here's a little bit of time to come there, though. Here comes the race leader now, all green techno. With the last wheel, and the inside of the track, all in the front straightaway. There's a little on the back side of the track here. Rossiter here is dropping 10 in Alfredo Morales. Right now. Out in front. 5:42.81. Back to the line there for the final time. Professor Rossiter, he's going to take the race win.
All right, so there you have it. A nice solid second place finish. Not a whole lot of action. It was unfortunate to see Daniel. He had a DNF. I'm not entirely certain. I think he had a pinion fall off. I could be wrong. It might have been something else, but that's what I heard. Nonetheless, it's a bummer he couldn't race it out with Patrick and I to the end. Patrick, he had a super solid clean run. Very happy for him that he was able to just put in a super solid finish in the A main there. Gonna be a great rest of the session. Looking forward to hopefully doing some battle with him and Daniel, and maybe some others if they happen to come in there as well. So round number 1, it was a good round. Podiums for both classes, good points for the series. Hopefully I don't have to throw this one away. And then just looking forward to another awesome event at round number 2. So if you guys haven't, please subscribe to the channel so that you can stay tuned on all of the Super Cup races that I'm going to be doing this year. Going to be doing some more topical videos, a giveaway, all that sort of cool stuff. So if you haven't, subscribe, and then you'll see that stuff in the future. Like the video if you guys actually like the content, helps me out. And then drop a comment down below if you have anything that you want to know about Super Cup, my setups, just anything you want to talk about RC related, please go ahead, drop those down there. I love reading those and commenting with you guys. And then that's going to do it for this one. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.